And I don't know why this came out like it. It looks really weird, but it doesn't look like that on my PowerPoint. This is an introduction to conceptual thinking. And it's talking about problem solving with easy concepts. And conceptual thinking helps you a lot when you're talking to people. You can give them a picture of what you're saying, and it helps you a lot in writing. I'm going to try and move this to a conceptual thinking area because this will enhance your paper, your writing. So in this class, we're going to talk about 3 kinds of conceptual thinking. And I'm going to encourage you to put each kind in your paper, but there's only one kind that you're required to put in this paper. But I'll introduce you to each kind. And we'll talk about this a couple of weeks. So don't feel discouraged or anything like that. You can do this. So there's 3 kinds of expressed conceptual thinking in this class. And the first one is rhetorical. That means that's in words. That's in how you're talking. And you guys taught me this one. When I conceived this class, I didn't really think about the oxology as part of your concept, but you guys reminded me of that because a lot of you said it's related to the ancient writings. It's related to something that was written in the 3rd century. And that is so true. I had forgotten that, or either I didn't know it. I just knew that it was about how things ought to be. But you guys reminded me that that's about those ancient writings, and I'll give you an example here in a minute. The second kind is like a graphic picture used as an example to explain something hard. And all of them are, that explains all of them. But one of them is this one is really a picture that you show a picture. And then the third one is like a chart or table used to show precise information. And that's the one that I'm going to require you to have in this paper. But all 3 of those you're welcome to use. And it'll help you. Like if you're trying to come up with a lot of pages, this will help you get there. So I'm going to go to the examples. The first one was the oxology graphic example in speech that makes people see your first frame. When you first start talking, you want to reorientate the conversation or something like that. It's complex. For example, if you're a lawyer and you're suing some doctors and they didn't do the right thing, the first thing you're going to do to position your argument is you're going to go to that old text, that Hippocratic oath that was written centuries ago, and you're going to premise your argument based on what that old text says. And I give you an example here, the Hippocratic oath, and a part of that Hippocratic oath says, into whatever houses I enter, I will go into them for the benefit of the sick. I will abstain from every voluntary act of mischief and corruption, blah, blah, blah. You would start your whole argument, your whole paper with that quote. That's kind of how you do that. That you just, hey, I'm starting my argument right here. You're supposed to be, if you're a doctor, you ought to do things a certain way. And that's the first conceptual, is, like sometimes you might start off to be or not to be. That is the question. You start off with, with some ancient writing. It's very, very helpful to position your argument. So in that respect, concept is related to oxology, from where we came from, where this thing even began. So that's the first. So you start your argument with a rhetorical picture of how things ought to be from the ancient text. That's a good way. We have the Bible. So as Christ-centered people, we can start off with that ancient text. However, I do want to warn you that you can get too preachy. So don't go too far with that. But that's a good one. That Bible, you can't go wrong using that one. So, okay, so now I'm going to the second way example of concepts. It's a graphic picture in speech that makes people see the complexities of your whole idea. And I'll give you an example. So I tell my husband and tell my daughter all the time that some problems are like a pile of hangers. And the minute I say it's like a pile of hangers, then they're going to go like, what? That's crazy. But you can see a pile of hangers. And so what I'm saying is sometimes you have a problem that's just a messy mess. If you pick up one hanger, you're going to pick up all the hangers. And so some issues are like that. The resources are a tangled mess, or you just can't use everything because it's all tangled up. You can't think clearly because all your ideas are all tangled up. And sometimes you just have to pick one issue at a time and pick up one thing at a time, one hanger at a time, straighten them out, and separate each hanger. And you have to wait until you have time to do this. You sit down and one by one, you untangle all of the issues, because sometimes we think we have one big issue and really we got a bunch of little bitty issues all tangled up in knots. So you just got to take a deep breath, sit down, and sort everything out before you can even begin to fix your problems. You got to sort out the issues. And so then you put like things together. So that's my example of using conceptual thinking, just in regular speech. I'm talking to my daughter, I'm talking to my husband, I'm talking to people around me, and I'm saying, hey, listen, before we can even start to fix this problem, we got a pile of hangers. When I say that, people just start cracking up. Oh, that's funny. But they know what I'm talking about because everybody's had a pile of hangers. So then I'll go to the next one. So then when you're talking about scholarly concepts, like it's kind of it's not unlike the hangers, but I use those hangers in just everyday speech when I'm talking to my husband or talking to my daughter. But when you're talking scholarly concepts, here I have it written: shape or configuration from everyday life to help others view the issue differently. So in other words, everybody has one thing in mind, and it's really, the truth is really something completely different. Just like what I showed you with the hangers. Sometimes things are not the way they appear. And you're the expert. I mean, you're the educated one. You're the one that they dressed you up and sent you off to college. So when you come back, they're going to be expecting you to help them solve problems. So that's how you'll do it. You separate. You talk to people and you tell them in conceptual terms, and you come up with simple ideas that everybody already knows, but you explain it in a problem-solving kind of way. Okay, so the third example of this concept, and this is the one that you need to use, is a table that uses information gleaned from your literature review, from your lit review. So in other words, that means is that your lit review is going to have enough information in it that you can come up with a table with columns and rows, and you can discuss what 2 or 3 different experts said on your subject by giving what they said, the elements, the tenets, the assumptions, the rules, by giving them a place on a table. I'll show you what that means. The information in your literature review. You and your reading audience have got to be able to read your literature review to create a chart or a table. You'll need to get information in that literature review from more than a couple sources, because you build your chart from the elements on the literature review. We're going deeper. Boy, we're going deeper. So let's use the Maui. When we first started on our first lesson, I introduced you to Maui and Moana, and I did the ontology of Maui, and we came up with, he was, just listening to what those two said, he was a shapeshifter, he was a demigod of the wind, demigod of the sea, hero of men, hero of women, hero to all. And then Moana said he was no hero at all. So we took the known information about Maui and put it in table columns. So this is how you start. So after you do your literature review, you've got to have enough information in that literature review to make columns. You got to get those tenets and make those columns. And then once you've done the literature review and you've made those columns, now you have something that you can test your theories with. You can test it. You're going to do an observation. You're going to observe something, and you're going to test to see if what your literature review said is real. And so I did the same thing with our Maui Moana situation. So I took the scenes from the trailer. These are just scenes from the trailer. You can go back and check it. You can go back and look at the trailer and see. In scene 1, I checked to see if Maui was a shapeshifter. I put a 1 here because Maui's tattoos started moving. So that was evidence of him being a shapeshifter. Something was shifting. I looked in scene 1 for a demigod of the wind. I didn't see it. I put a 0. I looked in there for a demigod of the sea. I didn't see it. I put a 0. I looked for a hero of men, 0. Hero woman, 0. And then when I got to what she said, I put a 1 because I didn't see a hero at all in scene 1. So then I went to scene 2. I didn't see any of those things in scene 2. I went to scene 3. I didn't see any of those things in scene 3. I went to scene 4, and whoops, I got here. He started looking like a hero right there. And I can discuss why I thought he was a hero. But I did this all throughout the trailer. Now, this was only the trailer. If my study was really going to involve Maui and Moana, then I would have to look at the movie and dissect every scene in the movie, not the trailer. It would have to be the movie. Let's say this was a real legend in Hawaii or Samoa. Then I would have to, if I was really serious, then I wouldn't just stop at the movie. I would start doing epistemology on Maui and epistemology on Moana. I would start to really, that's how you can take things that sound ridiculous in the beginning and turn it into a real epistemological study. And you can launch a real study on fiction, or launch a literary study on fiction, or a real study in science. All of them are kind of done in a similar fashion. And I'm introducing to you something that's called rigor, being rigorous about how you lay these things out. This is just an introduction.